What's up, everyone? It's us. It's us. Fancy seeing us here. Me. And others. Congratulations on reaching this. Mike hasn't put the number in the title. The somethingth episode of Star Trek Iskandar.
14th.
14th. Wow. Nearly half a season over the 20 years we've been running this show. For those of you who are new, we are the crew of the USS Iskandar. The four of us, Mike, Emily, Kath, and me, Izzy, play the roles of various characters that you can see listed below us on screen. But we also take it in turns to run the adventures. And this adventure's storyteller is our delightful Mike. Who will be running the plot for you today. If you have never seen an episode of Star Trek Iskandar before, the USS Iskandar is a formerly glowing, but now just regular old science and diplomacy ship getting on in a post-Dominion War world. Everything else I'm sure you can pick up by inference. As of this week, Helps and Hinders are still not active. Completely, to be honest, because I forgot. And that's on me. But I'm sure if you wish to involve yourself in the drama of it all, a quick note to Mike is all that is required in order to get on top of that. But aside from that, I'm going to hand you over to our storyteller, Mike, who's going to do more, more talking at you, and you're going to have to listen. Or not, you can just mute him, but I imagine you won't get a lot out of it.
We're experimenting with a function that will mute only me and render everything I say to text. And then you can use your text-to-speak of choice.
But it's really bad, transcription software for Mike, so who fucking knows? This is backstroke of the West in here.
Do not want.
Smelly boy.
So this mission, The Midst of Chaos, is an adaptation of a pre-written campaign which is part of the Star Trek Adventures Living campaign called Convoy SE-119 by Jim Johnson. So if you want to spoil yourself on what will be happening on this plot and find ways of circumventing it ahead of time, I recommend you can get that freely available PDF from Ophidius. I believe it's also going to be being released as part of their Shackleton Expanse Star Trek Adventures.
Sounds Shackleton Expansey.
It's very Shackleton Expansey. I have repurposed the Shackleton Expanse, and it exists in a different form somewhere else. And maybe we'll find out in this campaign. The answer is yes.
That's such a good pull. We should read every 5th page so that we know random snippets, but we don't have context.
No, we each pick a different things. Like you read every 5th page and we'll pick different numbers. And then we've all just got completely different random knowledge.
I don't think it's much longer than 5 pages long, if I'm honest.
So. In that case,
a page. Half a page.
We each roll a dice, and that's the page you get. Take a d6, roll the d6, that's your page. We each get that much knowledge.
If it's page 6, you understand exactly who wrote this.
Yeah, it says it's the 6th page, but the adventure stops at 5.
Nope, you get the 6th page.
So it is Stardate 57337.68, which no one will care about. But it's actually the 3rd of March. So that's nice. Or May, I can't remember. One of the two, who cares? It's on our spreadsheet, which you
says
can't
May.
see.
It says May. It's going to be May.
The Iskandar has been requested to dock at Starbase 621, where it will be assigned a mission in the nearby Panulan system. That's PANULON. For those of you that want to keep notes, I will happily remind you rather than going, suddenly you're in a different system because you said the wrong one. Haha. Different plot happens.
No, it's useful for me to write it down because as captain, I often need to very offhandedly remember that shit.
Very little is known about the reason for your being there. It has been requested that members of command staff attend upon the commanding officer of Starbase 621, Captain Casera. Notably, that request comes in with a side note of requesting the attendance of one Kalev Elrad. This is not too surprising, for the Panulan system is on the very border between Federated space and Union space, and so there is likely something Cardassian afoot. However, what soon becomes apparent is that this mission is going to be something of a convoy, and so whilst you are docking, we see kind of the Iskandar hitting this spaceborne ship bay, and there is a Galor class Cardassian ship also at dock. Captain Athan is pulled away to have some immediate introductions, and so the duty of attending upon Captain Casera is put upon Talandra and Elrad. I'm happy for a conversation or any speculation on what that may be between you both. Also, maybe to set the scene of how Elrad is doing on the Iskandar. I feel like we need, what do you call it? The kind of slice of life scenes from TNG.
Oh, the polar opening. Pillar opening.
Yeah.
For the late Michael Pillar. I mean, like Elrad's only been on board still like a couple of weeks. We're not that long after the Lonely Sea and Sky. So it's still possibly for the best at this point that he's like very much still on the settling in stage. You know, the dude has still been physically recovering from months of incarceration. Rather than particularly having much of a routine down, I think, because there are definitely still like major scenes with him and various characters which have not yet happened, which will need to happen. So I think it's best if this is still very much at the initial stages of him settling rather than swooping too much past. That is my instinct.
Sure. What are his quarters looking like to reflect that? Like, are we still dealing with like cardboard boxes with gear like unpacked?
I mean, what did he get? He probably doesn't own a great deal by way of possessions, especially not anymore. However, he would unpack because this is not the kind of man who is going to live out of boxes and only finish unpacking a year after he moves in. Like, everything that he has is stowed away. It includes an extensive bookshelf, arrays of like Cardassian art. It is still very Cardassian for all of his interests. He has not like got shit from other places, particularly in and around there. But it is a bit on the I think one would get the impression that he doesn't have enough stuff to fill quarters of this size.
So it's in its own way quite Spartan.
Yeah. He's gone for spreading it out rather than arraying his stuff so he has one decorated section. But it is quite Spartan, and if nothing else, the Cardassian aesthetic is all quite, corners and sharp lines rather than lending itself to being cute and fuzzy.
Very
By
nice.
now, he does have it at the temperature he wants it at.
So yeah, I imagine we get like an opening scene of a slight slice of life, even if it is solo activity of like reading or browsing the. I was going to say HoloNet, which I'm pretty sure is Star
No,
Wars.
that's Star Wars.
LCARS,
Subspace.
subspace,
Browsing subspace
frequencies.
networks, whatever. The entire ship's a library. Like, yeah.
And soon enough, the door will chime, which will probably be Talandra, to escort him down into the starbase proper.
Commander, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Elrod. I trust you are well rested.
Yes, thank you.
Do you have all that you need to be prepared for the mission?
At present, I have a pad and a memory, which I think is all that I'm going to be able to bring to this.
Excellent.
Unless you have some further insight into what's about to happen?
I do not know this captain in question, and I have been unable to glean more knowledge from the captain, so I believe this is a situation where we will be drastically underinformed.
Well, I suppose that's what briefings are for.
Indeed. Do you have any reason to think there is an issue regarding...
No issue. I'm still adjusting to I suppose, the Starfleet way of doing things. This would not be particularly unusual on Cardassia. Why would I be warned ahead of a briefing? A briefing is where I'll be told of things.
I see your perspective on this.
Then we might as well be about it. How was your... The crew have seemed a little busy in recent weeks since I've come aboard. They don't seem to have fully... And is this entirely normal? I rather get the impression it isn't.
Given the current state of the reputation of the USS Iskandar, we have been given a quantity of work that tests the mettle of the crew, but add into that our change of staff in engineering, everything is operating at a different speed. I believe that Lieutenant Reyes is overhauling a number of systems that Lieutenant Strange was happier to let be.
I hadn't ever had the impression that Ensign Strange was anything but fastidious in his work.
Completely. Nevertheless, each chief engineer does things in a different way.
Engineers are rather law unto themselves, even Cardassian engineers.
That is very true.
How is the ensign?
In our brief meetings, I believe that he has adjusted to his new role in terms of workload, but perhaps not in terms of emotions.
Difficult situation for him to be in, especially remaining aboard. I assume there was some consideration given to transferring him along with the demotion?
I believe the captain looked into avenues and decided this was for the best for the ship and for the ensign.
I can see the advantages of a fresh start after something like that, but if the crew is in a position to support him better.
I believe also there were not a lot of options for where Ensign Strange could go.
It sounds as if everything that happened, when I say drastic, I mean his actions.
Yes. Drastic is perhaps the word.
Very well.
It is difficult, as the emotional well-being of the crew is important to me, but I cannot get involved in a crew member's personal life if it is not impacting on their ability to perform their duty.
Of course, it's hard or fair for you to need to. Maybe it's different in Starfleet.
Are Cardassian officers often meddling in the personal lives of their crew members?
No, as you say, the personal lives are people are rather expected to be able to act with discipline, which I'm aware that Starfleet concept of discipline is something very different entirely.
Discipline is, of course, very important to Starfleet, but we recognize that our crews are people.
And with the crew so tense and their well-being your concern, how have you been faring? You seem quite busy.
I have been significantly busier than I was before. However, I thrive on the ability to be keeping the ship running. It is my responsibility to support the captain, who I believe needed the extra support in these past few months.
Well, in that case, we should see about this briefing.
To give some set dressing to a lot of that conversation, those initial interchanges about engineering were likely happening as you were traveling through the corridors of the Iskandar together, and it is very apparent, even from the initial briefing packet, that the engineering corps have been put to great work. Dozens of engineers flit past the scene, handing pads to one another and looking fairly stressed, even beyond the heavy hand of Captain Athan of late. Though the reason for that we will get to anon. Anon. As you
too warm to shut you out.
They're all running away and trying to fortify themselves before Zal jumps out the vents at them.
It is training day.
No!
It's
Find
leg
other
day.
things
The
to
purge.
Lieutenant Reyes has decided that there is going to be the purge.
do. Oh no, not one of those. I hate purge days.
It is legal for security to kill one engineer.
Oh no.
Coming off,
Goodbyes.
departing the Iskandar, that presence of the Gaylor ship, particularly, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. It's probably not a Gaylor ship. It's probably like a Gala ship or something. I don't know.
Wow.
I've only seen it written down. I can't remember it ever being spoken.
I'm not sure. I think Gallo class.
Galore. That sounds
Yeah.
good. Like galore, like Cardassians
Gallo.
galore.
Not sounding way too close to Gaylord class.
Gaylord ship. There's that Gaylord ship over there. Oh.
Isn't that the Iskandar given the shortage of people we have on board?
The Galore class ship stands in dock, quite domineering in comparison to the Intrepid class. If I'm not mistaken, Galore classes are a little bit more akin to the Enterprise in terms of size.
They are big, yes.
They are big, and the Iskandar is not. And it dominates kind of the background of the shot as Vulcan mum and her Cardassian bit on the side.
On the side.
Not on the side, at the front, the forefront of the relationship. Head to their briefing.
Does Caleb Elrod recognize the Gallo class?
To a degree. It's not. You are not familiar with it in terms of direct service, but it is one that you have heard of. It is called. He has it written down. He has it written down. He's scanning through his notes quickly. He has it written down.
Yes, you're a very cute little boy.
The Tovos. Not too remarkable a ship. Usually attributed to more scientific endeavors.
A girl ship.
Completely forgotten the name of Elred's old ship. I had it for a moment.
The Trador.
Trador, yes. Mm-hmm. Tovos. Yeah. All right, just goes a bit of a at the sight of it, but doesn't seem particularly fussed one way or another.
Are you acquainted with the ship?
Not particularly. I know of it. It doesn't have a sufficiently distinguished record that I can recall the commander. But then neither did the trader.
Heading into the captain's offices. This is a typical Starfleet starbase, so it looks in interior a lot like your ships of the era's typical interior. However, the captain's office is surprisingly vibrant. There are several potted plants standing around the room of varying heights and colours and scents. There is even one very small one on the desk itself, likely some kind of bonsai. Which is sat opposite a model of a Constitution-class starship, which kind of spins on a perfect hovering orbit. The woman behind the desk does not look like she belongs here. You rather imagine that there is an effort to try and make this a less stark and severe looking office, but the woman
completely wasted on the two of us.
And indeed looking like it's wasted on the captain herself. Captain Kassira is fairly square-jawed, deep-browed, stern features. Her hair is mostly black, though flecked with white at the temples, pulled back by a tidy silver circlet. And she has not stirred as you enter. There are two chairs at her desk, and she says, please sit down.
Captain, good morning.
Good morning. I hope that your arrival has gone smoothly.
Perfectly, thank you, Captain.
I'm glad to hear it.
They both take their chairs completely mechanically. None of them talking about the room they're in.
No one here cares about that.
She says, I have no doubt that it has not been lost on you that we are a starbase that is situated in close proximity to Cardassian space. As such, I'm sure it's no surprise that we have found ourselves quite instrumental in the continued cooperation and allegiance between the Cardassian Union and the Federation. Amongst the many duties that we find ourselves orchestrating, one thing is that we aid in is the movement of civilian vessels from Federated space into Cardassian Union territory. The Iskandar has come recommended to us as a vessel capable for this purpose. The civilians that will be a part of this convoy are moving some delicate research equipment into a facility in the heart of the Hackett Expanse. Cap, I'll drop you a very quick message on that. The Hackett Expanse is an extremely volatile area of space that has been hitherto unexplored by either side of scientific endeavours. But with recent technological improvements, we are standing at the cusp of being able to conduct such exploration. The civilian envoy will need the Iskandar and the Cardassian ship you no doubt saw docked, the Tovos, to escort them through warp into the Hackett Expanse and to their rendezvous point at a station, an observation station that has been set up there.
Thus, the Iskandar's assistance will be necessary for ensuring a viable and successful joint operation between our peoples.
Quite so.
Is the convoy solely a Cardassian undertaking, or is there much joint staff?
The convoy is a joint staff, predominantly Federation members and Cardassian Union members. There are 2 individuals in particular that will be leading the effort, who I've instructed your captain to meet with ahead of the actual departure, as well as meeting with the captain of the Tovos.
Who is the captain of the Tovos?
Their name is Girl Sonnet Nido. I do not know much about her, but she has come to us as recommended as the Iskandar was by the Federation, by Starfleet to this endeavor.
Do I know anything about that name?
It's not one you've heard, and given her station, likely a fairly recent promotion, which is in many ways bad, particularly for a Cardassian. That means that she's someone with a lot to prove. Part of the endeavor into the Hackett Expanse will require some fairly sizable adjustments to your sensor arrays. The Expanse is a roiling mass of constant electrical storms, and without any amendments to the arrays, these peaks can become quite unpredictable. Volatile eruptions have been known to come into full fruition without warning over a few seconds. As such, the Tovos and the Iskandar will be both undergoing a degree of alterations to their sensor arrays, which I appreciate will take some time to adjust to. You will have the pre-flight in warp to get used to those adjustments, and I can only assure you, having been there once myself, it is of absolute necessity to have these adjustments made. Do you have any questions on the mission as it stands?
Do we have any security concerns with relation to the convoy or its destination?
None that immediately spring to mind. The only security concern, in truth, is the nature of the Expanse itself. It is a dangerous and unfathomable, in a quite literal sense, area of space. To that degree, we are not certain that the kind of hazards you might be facing once you enter the Expanse. The route between here and there will be entirely straightforward, however.
You suggested that the alterations were necessary based on your own personal experiences.
Yes, we not so long ago had to respond to a distress call from a stranded Cardassian ship that had found itself within the Expanse's peripheries. It was quite astonishing that the message even got out there. It is fairly impenetrable, as I say, but seemingly they were able to jury-rig something with probe sufficiently to be able to expand the signal out of the Expanse, and thus were able to be seized from the danger by ourselves.
What has happened to the ship?
It was not able to accurately predict the electromagnetic eddies that are frequent in the storm. Had run afoul of it. Some superficial damage to primary propulsion engines, but enough to see them with only secondary power units available.
Is a briefing of what is known about the eddies available for our engineering corps?
That can be made available to you, but in truth there is very little known about them, such is the nature of the expeditions going in there. This is a dangerous mission in how little we know about the Expanse.
I'm not that familiar with the Tovos or her crew. It has always been my experience that when I assume most of the adjustments and the modifications are based upon Starfleet developments, sensor observation. Incorporating those successfully with the Tovos might benefit from an exchange, at least, of lending maybe some engineering personnel.
Quite so. Do you have engineers upon the Iskandar that you would recommend for the purpose?
I believe after a discussion with Lieutenant Reyes, proper recommendations can be made.
Wonderful. Then that can happen with my absolute authority,
Thank you.
as much as we have any authority over the Tovos. But, and I mean no disrespect, so far they have been quite cooperative with adopting the recommended changes provided by our own engineering suite.
Oh, it's more about a question of familiarity, as I say, with the modifications. My experience has been that the extensively skilled Starfleet engineers are more likely to have understood our more straightforward systems than the average Cardassian engineer may be familiar with. Well, I would say more advanced, but Starfleet engineering can be what some of my engineers would almost call over-engineered.
To that end, do you suggest that it might be pertinent for a Starfleet engineer to be temporarily assigned to the Tovos?
I think that's probably a decision that can best be reached once. Maybe if I speak with Lieutenant Reyes.
Why do you do this to yourself, Kat?
I didn't do it!
Maybe if an assessment of the modifications is done and the recommendations of Lieutenant Reyes afterwards could suggest that. I am not a systems engineer.
I understand. Unless there is any further information I can provide you, then thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you.
And you leave.
Any initial thoughts?
I don't know this Galnido. She might be quite new. On the one hand, I would hope that she's been given this assignment because of demonstrating an eagerness and preparation to cooperate with or to participate in the endeavors of cooperation between our governments. However, she's still military, which it's too early. There are many possibilities.
Are you worried?
I'm not. The Hackett Expanse is not an area with which I'm particularly familiar, but it has something of a notoriety amongst Cardassian cartographers and scientists that, as the captain expressed, we understand little about it. It's only in recent years and technological developments that we've been able to access it. It is not a region which my people have ever ventured far into. The name would translate to chaos.
Ah. Yes, I can see how that would be unpleasant.
So, I don't know how familiar your Lieutenant Reyes is with Cardassian technology. I don't know what other engineers that you have. Perhaps the Tovos has been selected because they're perfectly well prepared. Obviously, I would like this operation to go well. I would like this operation to go well for the cooperation between our peoples. And I would appreciate the opportunity. I would like this mission to go well.
Then we shall do everything in our power to ensure it does. I can deliver the briefing packet to Lieutenant Reyes and report back to you what her recommendations are.
Very well. I will see if I can learn anything more about this Gull Nido through my contacts.
Then we await on the captain.
Smash cut.
God, dropping my pitch is like needs lots of water.
I have tried to pepper in rest breaks for you as
I
someone
appreciate that's not going to be easy.
No.
The good news is we know we definitely have an engineer who's experienced with Cardassian technology. And I don't think I've been that specific on Reyes' experiences with Cardassian technology.
Look, it's down to her.
Just
It is.
punt the sad boy onto this bad Cardassian ship.
I'm gonna. I don't think this is. I know you put Reyes in the art, but I'm not gonna lie. Unless something happens, I am going to take opportunities for Reyes to punt action or focus away from her.
That is fine. The art is but speculation.
We are but dust.
We are but dust. On the gantries of the docking bay, as well as the Tovos in its magnificence, Gala-class ships look basically like stingrays, and they're really, really quite pretty. I've always quite liked them. And it is very, very large. It is not the only vessel. It and the Iskandar are sharing docks with a few fairly small, clunky, boxy-looking ships. One or two of them might have an orb front, which occasionally civilian-class ships seem to have borrowed from the Federation. Many of them are just basically boxes with wings and propulsion engines. And we find Lieutenant Atina Kantos and Captain Nadiri Athan meeting some of the civilian captains. Ahead of you both is a human male, quite a bit older, wearing simple clothing. It's that this is Trek civilian clothing, so it's a little bit grungier.
Either grungy or like a bus seat upholstery.
You are going to experience
Sometimes
both.
shiny.
Sometimes shiny. This person is going grungy. There's like a buttonless leather jerkin jacket type affair.
Yes.
Brown
It ranges
trousers.
to that box in the civilian clothing section of the costume department.
He's got a dark blue t-shirt because t-shirts never go out of fashion within certain areas of the cosmos, seemingly. And he stood ahead of a Norkova type vessel, which is, as I say, just a box with wings.
Why does it even have wings?
just
Sometimes it might need to go into atmosphere.
kind
It
of a
shouldn't,
coffin.
but
Imagine
it might
a
need
coffin.
Goodbye. Hello, Captain Death.
Captain Death, I assume.
Sorry.
to. It's pronounced as dear.
Yeah.
The Earth. No, he has actively sought Athan out. It's a civilian ship, and so he doesn't carry himself with the kind of crisp properness that comes with a Starfleet anything. So there's a little bit of a slouch to his shoulders, and he thrusts a meaty hand out for a shake. Captain Bertrand Vaughan he gestures a thumb over his shoulder as if the thing is something to be proud of. The Coronis, a word that means very little to Athan unless she studied in Greek mythology.
No, she doesn't go in for any of that fucking Terran-centric attitude unless
Terran bullshit.
Kath wants to make a literary reference.
I'm going to be something of the chief point of contact for the majority of the convoy, 6 vessels overall. But I've been leading us back and forth from the array within the nebula and the system expanse, and from Federated Space. Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you, I say. Captain Athan, this is my Chief Flight Control Officer and Second Officer, Lieutenant Kantos.
Nice to meet you. And Candace will hold out her hand.
big hearty shake, big smile on his face, brightens up. So, what do you want to know?
Well, we've got the recommended modifications that we're going to need to make to our systems to weather the expanse. Is there anything with your experience that you might suggest?
Oh, certainly. If any of your crew are sufferers of anxiety or imposter syndrome in any stretch of the imagination, they aren't going to have a great time with this. The tweaks, she's gone. That was the bridge too far. Izzy, Luke beckons.
Technology needs to be passed between them. Anyway.
I'm not in this scene. Why didn't you carry on?
I was fascinated because it looked like for a while the only thing you'd do would be to move a water bottle. Are they all fascinated? What a weird thing for to reflect you.
I was still dealing emotionally with the idea that this is the expanse that triggers us.
This is the triggering expanse. That's the best way I've had it described in terms of getting used to the changes to the system. Everything is going to be hypersensitive. It's going to feel like you're a fresh cadet again, or so I'm told.
The ship's systems will
or
be
hypersensitive, yes.
Just the ship systems. It's a purely mechanical
yes.
issue we're concerned about.
Right,
Very well.
Okay.
Yeah, I would if you.
Visible relief, I think, on both of them.
The expanse, it makes you feel sad. Oh, fuck this.
Bye.
It does a what now?
Get it the fuck out of here.
I've seen what sad does to people.
Two to beam up. Fuck
I would
you.
not like to try it, says Kantos.
No.
He says, where was he? Ship
It's just
systems.
mechanical. Ship systems.
Hypersensitive.
Yes.
Don't go into expanse if you got anxiety or imposter syndrome.
Yeah, you're going to need to just, keep a level head. Everyone's going to be a little bit more... Basically, anything that you trust to automation right now, you're going to need to check and double check. You're going to need manual hands on every system-wide element of the running of your ship. It will be nothing but frustrating as we approach the expanse, and then deadly necessary as we are entering the expanse proper.
My crew are accustomed to staying busy, and I think that this will only then do them some good.
Oh, well, jolly good then.
Assuming, of course, say you have some experience with this, but I would certainly want to give you a direct contact for Lieutenant Kantos to be a primary point of liaison between yourselves and my ship, so that if Lieutenant Kantos, you can make sure that the civilian convoy have everything that they need.
Absolutely.
Perfect. He hands over a device.
Could be anything.
Could be anything. I'm going to take it.
It's a
it
bomb.
starts ticking.
And say, that's my details. They're not on Starfleet comms, but so he has like a rudimentary civilian comm badge thing.
Mm-hmm.
And says, I do have a second. I don't mean unit of time. I mean, I've got a second in command. I don't know where she's gone. But if she were here, I'd introduce you.
I'm sure I'll get to meet her at some point.
And a voice too close to Kantos's shoulder says, I'm sure you will. And Kantos, the tallest Cardassian you've ever seen, is stood right behind you. She is dressed in angular uniform that you've no doubt seen Kalev Elrad wear historically. She is on the higher end of 6 foot. And she's stood completely, not to attention, but quite in a straight back, looks over the human, looks over the Trill, looks over the Kantos. the raging pervert. And then the eyes snap back to Athan. Captain Athan, I take it.
Quite. You have me at a disadvantage.
Girl Nido of the Tovos.
A pleasure to meet you.
I'm sure the pleasure will be mine. I must say I am endlessly curious as to, and she does make a show of kind of leaning to one side. The Iskandar is in view for her. It's just, next to her much larger ship. She doesn't need to lean, but she does. I am genuinely quite surprised at an intrepid class being associated with this assignment.
Indeed, the Intrepid class has one of the most sophisticated bio-neural processing systems of any ship in the fleet.
Oh.
Surely an excellent choice to deal with the Hackett Expanse.
Oh, I've no doubt. As I say, it's a surprise. I do not know truly what I anticipated Starfleet would send on this with us. It's at once interesting and yet somehow entirely overwhelming. Is there anything that... Sorry, she says underwhelming, not overwhelming. Underwhelming. Is there anything that your crew will need from mine in advance of us heading into warp together?
Does your crew have any direct experience of the Hackett Expanse?
As much as you, I'm afraid to say.
Very well. We have a series of recommended alterations to make with our ship systems. I'm sure that any exchanges of information we can make as we implement them would be well received by both of our sets of engineers.
Yes, we have been working with some of the directives, but I will make sure that my engineering team is available to yours for any further recommendations that you have to make.
Very well. I have no doubt that my Lieutenant Reyes would be more than happy to have such conversations.
I look forward to meeting them.
If there is anything that we can do, by all
No,
means, go on.
I don't think so. But it was good to put a name to a face.
I'm glad you're here.
Captain. She nods loosely in the direction of poor Bertrand Vaughan, who gives a little wave. And as she's walking away, goes, Bertrand. And she strides back to the Tovos. Bertrand lets a long descending whistle escape his lips, which I will not emulate for fear of peaking the audio on my mic.
It's going to be that kind of a convoy mission.
Yes.
That's fine if she wants to be cocky about Galor's systems in somewhere like the Hackett Expanse.
That's certainly a choice she can make.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to cooperate long enough for us to get into the very, very dangerous and precariously placed array for us to continue our science.
Don't worry, Captain Vaughan. The safety of the convoy is absolutely our highest priority.
It's good to hear. I hadn't realised I hadn't heard that from... He looks over to the Tovos.
Girl Nido can wish to demonstrate her prowess all she wishes, and at the end of the day, I'm confident that she's a professional and will understand that demonstrating her prowess includes the mission succeeding.
Yes.
It is in her interest as much as ours that this convoy mission is successful. But this is a Starfleet ship. We are here to aid in this mission of exploration, Captain.
Well, Captain, it's good to know. The deflation that had been apparent since Nido's withering departure has somewhat elevated. He perks up and again jerks a thumb over his shoulder at his much lesser ship and says, well, I should get back to some of the initial preparations. I am around if you need me.
By all means, thank you, Captain.
Thank you. and he turns and heads within the SS Coronis.
As I say, Lieutenant, it'll be useful if you can act as a point of liaison with the convoy.
More than happy to, Captain.
Good, good. Don't worry. I'll deal with the Cardassians.
I'm sure she won't be that much of a problem, Captain.
If she wants to play desperately insecure, I have no interest in that game.
Quite.
Shall we?
Yes.
Let's bounce to wherever we're bouncing.
Yeah.
You're bouncing. Aboard the Iskandar, for anyone who isn't engineering, this is a really great opportunity to get off ship, enjoy a different flavor of artificial gravity. It's not like other star bases that have, like, I've previously described the starbase 183, I think, from Ensign Strange's Bad Day, as being kind of like an airport cafe. This is not that. It's not really quite so outfitted, but it is an opportunity for the crew to kind of just stretch their legs a little, which is great if you haven't been given a direct assignment to make very important tweaks to all of your sensor arrays. Engineering are run ragged. We get kind of a West Wing walking backwards camera shot of Reyes and Strange heading towards the warp core. Reyes just finished comms with Kingston, who is somewhere within the deeper guts of the Iskandar, making direct changes. And you're heading back to the warp core to check on some feed to basically how the calibrations are reacting to warp core sensors. I imagine you are mid technobabble spiel, which I will not demand you
something
invent.
About, we need to make sure that the Hackett expanse isn't going to interfere with the frequencies of the electromagnetic fields in the warp core, that kind of shit.
When you sorry, go Strange, please.
I was still halfway through forming what the technobabble was going to be in my head, but yes, I'll have to make sure that it's not going to interfere with the matter-antimatter controls either, and to make sure that we're not going to get any runaway neutrino reactions in the core.
If we're going to have any situations with any subspace turbulence, I want to make sure that we're ready to adapt to the matter-antimatter injection. So keep that monitored, and we're going to figure out someone who's probably going to be on that more or less full time for monitoring it directly, because this is possibly going to take, as I say, a manual override.
Okay.
At the very least for the first 24 hours we're in there.
Mm-hmm.
And as Reyes kind of breaks off that sentence, it becomes readily apparent that there is an arse in the air. More importantly and significantly, there is someone on their hands and knees ducked under one of the consoles. And you can tell, even without seeing their face, obscured as they are in the depths of whatever they are doing, this is not someone in Starfleet uniform. There is just someone in your warp core, crouched and knelt, peering underneath one of the consoles.
Reyes murders them.
Reyes
Straight up.
dead.
Just pushes them into the
To
warp core.
and worry about who they were later. Oi!
Oh, there's a clang as the immediate reaction of someone under something in TV is to hit their head, and then they stand. She is wearing... she has gone for the bus seat route, the 90s bus seat route for clothing. She has a very bright checked green, brown, blue shirt, a pair of dungarees, and
is she a Star Trek civilian or is she gay? No one knows.
No one knows.
I'm thinking, has she stolen my clothes? I've got that shirt. It's in the watch at the minute, otherwise I could get it.
In stark contrast to the clothing that she wears is her complexion, which is grey because she's Cardassian. Her hair is cut into symmetrical, but quite short, several just spikes. And her forehead has been painted in its divot a bright neon pink, which features nowhere on the clothing that she is wearing. And she blinks, looks at you, and smiles. It's, hi.
What are you doing in my engine room?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was looking for the gel.
The gel?
Who are you?
Cad. Cad Krilton.
Taking your down. My name will also go on the list.
I need to write it down twice. Once for NPCs in this session, once for grudges.
And who let you in here?
Oh, no one. I was looking for someone, but I was waiting around. No
Who
one
were you
seemed to be-
looking for?
Chief engineer.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, hi. Great.
Yeah, I'm Lieutenant Reyes. Don't come help yourself to my ship systems when you come aboard as a civilian without clearance in my engine room.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Can I see the bioneural gel?
Why?
I haven't seen them. I was wondering what they look like.
No.
Oh. Please?
No.
Okay. It's nice.
What are you really here for?
That's it. I've never been aboard an Intrepid class. I wanted to have a look at the bioneural gel packs.
You broke onto an Intrepid class.
No.
Rummaging around looking for the bioneural gel just because you hadn't seen it before?
Yes, but no. Not to the breaking in part. Yes to the wanted to see it part.
Someone let you in?
The door was open.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Right, okay.
I just started walking around. Security seemed busy.
Up Zal's ass.
Security seemed busy. And you know
Did
when you're like
they
somewhere that
now?
you don't need to be and you just walk with purpose and sometimes you can get away with it. I just did that until I got here and then here I am. And then...
Reyes is giving Strange this like questioning but slightly accusatory look, but it's generally is this normal on this ship that someone can pull this? And so the accusatory isn't personal, it's like,
just
what
saying,
is this clown show?
Yeah, but it was like Strange's expression is very much like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is going on? Who let you here?
Okay. Wait, where did you come from? Don't say the station. I need more than that. Don't say Cardassia.
That was going to be it. I'm aboard the Coronis. I'm the XO of the Coronis.
Right, one of the
civilian vessels.
Yeah,
You're
right.
escorting us. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right, you're part of your
No,
civilian...
I'm not just some random Cardassian that
Oh,
walked
no.
aboard the Iskandar.
That would be...
Yeah, that... Quite.
Oof.
So you just, you don't have any actual business with the engineering team? Official business in your capacity as the XO of the Coronis?
No. I could possibly help with the spades full of recalibrations that you have to do. I could not. I don't mind.
Go back to your ship.
Okay. Off I go. Lovely meeting you.
Wait. Hang on. In fact, Strange. Get them to security and get them escorted off. The Intrepid class Starfleet ship.
I mean, I know where to go. We don't need security.
Strange.
I'll go get Zal on this.
Okay. All right.
Come on.
What the fuck?
Strange. You find Zal pacing through a corridor, pad in hand. He spots you, looks at her. How can I help?
So sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Oh,
Just-
Cad.
Cad,
Quilton.
sorry. Cad Colton. Cad here just walked into engineering and started having a look around, trying to find the bioneural gel.
Why? I was curious. Not good enough. Oh, sorry. Lieutenant, do you think this needs a detention?
I think it mostly needs an escorting off the ship.
Okay. Then, Cad, why don't you follow me? I mean, I know the way. No. Why don't you follow me? She pockets filled with hands. Pardon me. She's escorted down the corridor and away.
Just put her hands in her pockets.
Yeah.
Just getting a quick look of, does it look like there's anything else in her pockets?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. What have you got in there?
Oh, I'd rather not. It's embarrassing. Zal, at this point,
Looking at
a hand
Zal.
on her shoulder,
Looking at Cat.
looks down at her and says, "If you'd be so kind." And she sighs and pulls out like a square rock.
Okay. Not anything that came out of
You
engineering.
hope not. If it came out of engineering, there's more problems on this ship than you realize. It's like a carved square
Nothing that
rock.
should be in engineering anyway. Okay.
Just kind of fidgets with it. Looks quite ashamed.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's not come out of our engine.
Oh no, I didn't. I'm not one for taking souvenirs. I can't help but notice how little you understand this is a problem. And so I'm going to advise that she leave immediately.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you, Ensign. You know the way? She goes, yeah, up this. And traipses off with Zal very close behind.
Okay. Zal's dealing with that. And Strange turns and goes back towards engineering to go deal with the things that should be his problem.
Anything more from the engineering team?
I checked that she's not fucked anything up.
Um,
And you know, from the Reyes definition of changed and touched things.
you could give me a quick investigation check on that.
4.
Yeah, you can pretty easily track what she's been doing. She's been leaving like cold fingerprints on consoles. But yeah, it looks like she came in and just started like moving chairs and looking at consoles. Not in any kind of I'm pulling information way, you think. There's certainly no information left on screen that would indicate that. And has been seemingly just rummaging around. There's stuff misplaced. Things have been moved, but everything is accounted for.
Okay, so Zal's getting a pissy memo. And I fix things.
I imagine soon after that, we will need to deal with the idea of sharing engineering resources with the Tovos. How would you like to handle that by way of scene and conversation?
I mean, there is the fact that, oh God, I guess it is probably going to. I mean, the good news is actually, I think it would be a direct scene with Reyes and Elrad, but it would also be a very technical conversation between the two of them anyway. And Elrad wants to get down to business and is going to be polite and deferential to Reyes' expertise because he's not an engineer. And as such, Reyes is not going to have a problem with any of this. So I don't think there is going to be any important dynamics occurring between my two characters, who I'm never sock puppeting between them. The gist of what they'll be trying to figure out is how complicated the alterations are, and this is a very headcanon take on Cardassian tech. I once read a headcanon which interpreted the difference between like a Cardassian rifle and a Federation rifle as being akin to the difference between like a M16 and a AK-47, in the idea that some of these are much simpler pieces of tech which are less sophisticated and have fewer bells and whistles, but can be sometimes more reliable. Whereas Starfleet technology, especially because it's not purely military in focus and purpose and design, is again much more complex. Not to call Cardassian technology less advanced or less sophisticated, but it's much more purpose built and single purpose. So the assumption that I was working off with Elrad's issue was, how will the Cardassian systems be sufficiently versatile for them, and the Cardassian engineers likely sufficiently trained in shit like weird ass stellar phenomena compared to a Starfleet engineer, as to whether or not Elrad wants to recommend that the Tovos really should get some Starfleet assistance. Only you can tell me.
No, I think you are dead right. That falls fairly nicely into the themes of this episode. So yes, you are this, even with a cursory look at the kind of extent that your sensor arrays will need to change, and looking at effectively the operations workflow that any engineer, or indeed anyone at a console, will need to undertake. It's the kind of manual checking that is not intrinsic to how Elrad understands the Cardassian ships to operate. So it leads to a few potential outcomes, one of which is they try to implement these changes, do it badly, and then they're at risk. The other is they ignore the changes, and then they're at risk. They are unlikely to have the level of sophistication, or indeed the number of engineers that you would anticipate being on the ship probably wouldn't match the kind that you would want to undergo changes like this. In Elrad's experience, this kind of level of essentially dumbing down your sensor array to make it a little bit more fragile, a little bit more sensitive, you would want to stock with a secondary engineering core were you still in command of a vessel, just to make sure that if nothing else, you could rotate engineers sufficiently to keep fresh eyes on ever-changing data sets. Yes, absolutely.
Because the Galor is a warship, fundamentally, and thus is less concerned with its finer detection systems, whereas compared to, the Intrepid class, which is a dedicated science ship. Okay. Elrad would run that recommendation up to Athan, who I think, for convenience's sake, and also having just dealt with Nido, is going to set the task of that liaison and interaction with Elrad and Talandra, because Elrad, with the hope of him being there to be as a diplomatic presence, and Talandra to, volunteer the Starfleet assets, which Elrad isn't allowed to volunteer. But certainly before that happens, Elrad is going to want to do his own digging with his contacts into this Nido.
Yes. Let's have a contacts roll from yourself.
Oh. Oh. It's not a.
That skill that we never use.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess I'm having that at a +1 on that list, which I didn't previously have. Because it makes sense, I realize. Now that you say that, for the stat line, I hadn't yet figured out. There it is, a dump stat. What color's good for Elrod? Elrod's commandy, so he uses red. So that's a +6. That's a 3.
On a 3, you fire a few messages off with your contacts, and it'll soon come back to you that Sana Nido is a very recent advancement within the ranks. It is presumed to have predominantly been nepotism. Her record is not the greatest in the world. Why are you laughing?
No, that's like the worst possible thing of the things I realistically thought you would say. Like,
Yeah,
that's pretty up there.
Like, she's not a war criminal.
Yeah.
She does have a few notable absences in her record of information that has likely been expunged due to their sensitive nature. But even with your experience of dealing with Cardassian sensitive information, this is not she's gone and done a massacre of a bunch of Bajorans. Let's just remove that from her record. This is just she's possibly made some unjust decisions that someone is covering up for her to try and keep her advancement clean. If nothing else, her family name is mentioned frequently in conjunction to another girl who has overseen a few meetings that have dealt with her career advancement.
So I imagine that Elrod is sensitive to the difference between nepotism and like family traditions of service. Now, obviously, a non-Cardassian might not actually see any difference between the two, but I'm assuming that even by Elrod's standards, this is stinking of nepotism.
Yeah.
She
doesn't seem entirely incompetent.
Yeah.
There's a fair few victories against the Federation in various combat situations that
neat.
Have seen her see some quite glowing feedback. But yeah, she was active during the war. Not as a captain, but whichever comes under girl, I can't remember. Glyn.
We only have 3 Cardassian ranks if you count Legate, and it's sometimes unclear what Legate is. Is it a reasonable conclusion for Elrod to reach based off this that she is probably far more aligned with the military and Central Command than with the new civilian government?
Yes, absolutely.
Then is it at all clear why she's got this assignment for a cooperative scientific undertaking with the Federation?
You got a 3, and I would have called this a difficulty 2 had I had to call it. So on that,
I'm prepared to spend a fate point to up it for that.
Then yeah, please do.
I will use. Which aspect am I going to use? I'm going to use dutiful Cardassian citizen. I'm going to use my primary aspect to give me a +2 to knock that up to 5 to find out why is she here, even if he has to make some phone calls.
I imagine like this is where the scene cuts in, like a few pads, Nido's face clearly visible. You're speaking to a Cardassian point of contact for you, a legate called Ezod, who, as the scene begins, kind of chuckles. Oh, you've met Nido.
I haven't actually yet had the pleasure, but I expect to soon.
The pleasure is the operative word. She is company. I was going to say good company, but that wouldn't quite be doing it justice. She's very traditional.
I see. She's been assigned to lead the Cardassian contingent convoy in a joint operation with Starfleet.
Mm.
Seems a little of an odd trajectory for her career.
Odd but not unsurprising. It is one of several that the family of Nido seem to be undertaking. Now, far be it from me to take on the stance of a conspirator, but if I may simply entertain that notion for a second, the family of Nido seem to be trying to maneuver themselves into the favor of the civilian government. Particularly with recent events in mind, one can only speculate that they have seen an opportunity and are trying to make use of it.
Do you think that they're actively considering throwing their lot in with the civilian government, or rather hedging their bets?
My assumption would have been that they were simply hedging their bet. But there is a girl of decent standing, Oko Nido. He is seemingly a little more vocal than we have seen any of his family being before, in not outright favor, but certainly more vocal in terms of some of the changes that have been undergoing in the government. Had you called me prior to me reading a few articles on the matter, I would have said that they were simply hedging their bets. However, I think certainly the head of house seems to be more inclined to step into place. That does not, however, answer where Nido falls on the matter.
No, it doesn't. I suppose there's always a possibility she's been sent by an ambitious patriarch without necessarily believing this herself. Very well. That is all I think I need, but thank you very much.
Of course. I wish I could give you something a little bit more definitive, but they are being quite clandestine in many of their pursuits.
Well, hopefully I can return the favor.
Any information you can provide on Nido will be mostly appreciated.
Hopefully I'll see if I can get the measure of her. I think that will happen one way or another.
Excellent. Well, good luck in your endeavours.
Thank you, Leggett. Boop. Because no one says goodbye.
No one says bye. The screen just stops.
Mm-hmm.
Bye is outdated.
Ponderous look. But yeah, just because I need to send Elrad and Athan is thus not going, and also I want to make Talandra fight her, I guess it's going to be Elrad and Talandra who need to request for a meeting, probably on the Tovos.
Mm-hmm.
Let's at least give her the dignity of hosting. Because Elrad's assessment is that the Tovos is going to need assistance. And I'm inclined to say that Strange is still probably, like, if the adjustments need to happen to the Iskandar, then Reyes is going to want to worry about her own goddamn ship far more than she's going to want to worry about the Cardassian ship. And thus, obviously, Strange is the primary candidate. Because one, he has experience, and two, he's a PC.
Does that mean you're taking Strange with you for this meeting?
No, that might be presumptuous.
Imagine if it was just like, and so we've decided we're going to send Kingston.
I'm going to send Rosie Elders. I like her tentacle monster gag. It's just neat. I love it. Was a bit weird on it first. Then she picked up a can of Coke on the other side of the room. Thought it was fucking ace.
Oh.
I need to be clear again that Rosie Alders is bipedal and has no tentacles.
Sorry, she's a bipedal goo monster. My bad.
She's not gooey.
Sorry, carapace.
Yeah, she's
yeah. She's far more insecty.
Yes.
Yeah. she's bad to look at.
And often off
wrong.
screen for budgetary reasons.
Oh yeah, because it takes like 12 hours to get the actress into like the Gregor Samsa beetle makeup, whatever the fuck it is she looks like.
Amazing from Neo Shenrun in chat. She's not a gooey monster. She's the skittering terror.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, she's our skittering terror.
Yeah.
I was sat there when I was thinking about what to run for these sessions, and I've got two in mind, and one of them is an episode called Alders, funnily enough, which will deal with some of the Alders
Kingston.
stuff, but it's just...
It obviously deals with Kingston.
It's a Kingston-focused episode. It's
Kingston
Kingston
and
fucking...
what was his actual name? Erotica.
Kowalski.
Carnell.
Oh, Erotica
Carnell.
Carnell. Yeah. It's the lads. It's lads doing lad
I
stuff.
can see Kowalski being one of the lads.
Kowalski
Oh yeah, he's a
needs to be
himbo.
one.
He's got
Yeah.
big himbo energy.
Fair.
I know he's
It's
the
the,
wasn't
one.
it's
getting-
the positive throwing out kind of energy.
That's fair. I wasn't getting like
Yeah.
a lad's energy
Yeah.
from Kowalski, but yeah, no, I can see himbo.
He will call you brah while fixing you a hydration drink for your hangover.
Yes.
He's that kind of guy.
That kind of, yeah.
Regardless,
Anyway,
The people who aren't broy in the least.
aboard the Tovos, this is a Cardassian ship, so it's mostly kind of deep reds and sheer turquoise screens. That aesthetic, even though I imagine we've only ever seen a Gala class bridge, probably continues into every facet of culture. It's not like suddenly you're going to get a lovely white room. So you're taken to the captain's ready
I'm
room.
not sure that there's ever actually been a scene set on the bridge of a Galor class.
That is. I've
Is
got some
There is
pictures.
now.
I did a quick Google.
Yeah.
I've got a picture of Kira Bloody Nerys on one of all things.
Oh.
Yeah.
2007. Right.
Yes, the captain's ready room. It is appointed so that Nido has pride of place. It's a lot less, this is a boardroom where all of us are equals. A lot more, that's the captain.
That's
and
fine.
the rest- yeah.
Duh.
And cutting in, just to keep it in media res, she says, you have recommendations.
Yes. It's been my assessment from examining the modifications to ship systems necessary for entering to the Hackett Expanse, discussing it with the chief engineer of the Iskandar, and compared with my own experiences of commanding a Galor class, that this mission will proceed considerably more smoothly if an engineer from the Iskandar is able to offer support and extra hands to your engineers.
What makes you presume that we are lacking?
The comment was not about lacking, more ease of coordination.
The percentage of crew aboard who are engineers on a Galor class is very different to aboard an Intrepid class. The Iskandar can spare some more hands than simply you can. This is a simple matter of efficiency, Gull.
Thereby allowing your crew to focus on other matters.
Well, I am a lad. I am a fan of efficiency. There you have appealed somewhat to my nature. I am curious as to what has caused this recommendation. Are you struggling with your own retrofitting, or is this from the kindness of your heart, Elrad?
Kind
Oh,
of
she calls you Kalev. She goes first name.
He fucking does straighten a bit at that, because that's just rude.
She's rude. She's rude. I don't like her.
The motivation of the crew of the Iskandar is purely altruism, Gull.
They were my recommendations, Nido.
You are quite the altruist.
I am committed to the mission of cooperation between the Federation and the Cardassian Union, and after almost a decade of experience commanding a Galor, it immediately struck me as clear that this ship would benefit better from such support and expertise. This has nothing to do with politics, Nido. It is simply commitment to the mission and to our duty.
Well, I am happy then that has been what has motivated it, for I am equally as committed to the mission as you.
Delightful. Then, in which case, Commander Talandra, you recommended Ensign Strange to be able to render support and assistance?
Given Strange's record with Cardassian technology and experience liaising with the crew of the Trador, I believe that he would be the best option.
Wonderful. Ensign Strange is a very competent pair of hands, Nido. I'm sure he'll be able to be very helpful to your engineers.
I am delighted at the prospect of having the helpful and competent hands of Starfleet at my disposal.
Oh, I have found that Starfleet engineers are quite remarkable. What they lack for in military acumen, they make up for with being, frankly, omnidisciplinarians of technical prowess.
A shame that there needs to be a lacking of anything at all, but I suppose that is the nature of these things.
That is reality indeed, Nido.
Is there anything else we can do to be of service, Skull Nido?
Oh, I rather imagine there is. It seems quite uncouth that we were to deprive a key personnel of the Iskandar without being able to lend some assistance in kind. Is there, upon my assistance, a possible deployment from my own retinue that I can give to the Iskandar as a show of good faith?
A show of good faith is not necessary, Gull Needle. We are all friends here.
And in the spirit of friendship and cooperation, as has been so eloquently put, it would be my honour to assure that one of my own crew, I appreciate our engineers would be busy, but perhaps someone from the area of telemetry or stellar cartography associated to your science division.
I mean, I assure you, Nido, when it comes to representing the interests of the Cardassian government, I am seeing to that affair. You do not need to make a mere gesture.
Oh, I'm not a believer of gestures that have no weight behind them, nor was I expressing this from the perspective of any form of opinion regarding the government. I solely wanted to ensure that we had the most capable hands where they will be most, how was it you put it, useful.
Like Elrad's gaze at least flickers to Talandra on this because he's not about to make a staffing statement.
Talandra's face hasn't moved.
That sentence could have ended at hasn't, and it would have been very apt.
Talandra hasn't. I'm just trying to think. She doesn't want this. But she's also under instructions to make nice with the Cardassians. I think what she's going to do is glance back to Elrad because he is her Cardassian liaison on this. And if
Fuck, buddy. Sorry.
Jesus Christ, Mike.
Be so
No.
uncouth.
No. You
Michael.
are completely misreading the Regency tenor of.
We haven't held hands in months, Michael.
We've been busy with the ship.
And longing looks, but only brief.
And given that he is the expert on ship for how to deal with the Cardassians, if this is going to turn into some sort of awkward standoff, or like he's gonna say something, she's gonna say something, and like Needle's gonna take that as an opportunity to take it poorly or something, like Talandra is perfectly aware that she is now on the precipice of an awkward social situation by people who are both quite Vulcan in that they are quite polite and structured and regimented, but needlessly emotional. And she hates that. So she is simply going to fix eyes with Gulnido for a beat longer than is like polite, and then go as if it's the slightest thing in the world. I am content to leave the matter in the hands of Mr. Elrad, given that Cardassians aboard our ship are his domain.
Perhaps this might be an opportunity, Nido, for some enterprising young officer of yours to assist in broadening the horizons and understanding.
I know just the officer.
There
I
will be
will
assigned.
happily have them report to you.
They will be assigned to the care of our chief science officer, Lieutenant Casey.
Excellent.
I should
I
have pushed
cannot-
the diplomatic part more hard.
I cannot wait to meet the caliber of staff that the Iskandar have to dispose with us. This has been fruitful. Thank you for this.
Thank you for receiving us, Nido.
Of course, Kalev.
You know how to reach us.
I don't
She's
actually.
flirting with me.
Oh, she's into me. All right, okay.
Oh, she's being antagonistic.
Yeah, that's how Cardassians
How the
flirt.
flirt do.
Yeah.
Do they return to the Iskandar? Do Elrad and Talandra return to the Iskandar? Because I think as soon as they're back in the Iskandar, Talandra's going to like look to the side and go, "Forgive me, I was completely unable to read her energy in that meeting."
What did you... Could you put that as a question?
Whilst I understand that she did not like us, she was remarkably forward with you. Is that normal?
It is not, although I am still assessing what normal is.
Was it an attempt on her part to be disrespectful?
I believe that she was attempting to undermine my status, reduce me to nothing but a civilian chatterer, whilst establishing herself as the ranking military officer. She certainly was not giving my position as a representative of the Cardassian government the appropriate deference.
Are you concerned about this officer of hers?
I think that in truth, what we are seeing from the Tovos and from Nido is posturing. I do not have any reason to doubt her commitment to the mission. I do believe that she is quite intent on demonstrating and proving herself to her superiors and, frankly, to everybody. She is a relatively green commander.
Yes. Perhaps you would be able to brief Lieutenant Casey on what to expect.
I will brief Lieutenant Casey, I will brief Ensign Strange, and I will make sure that I am available and present as much as I can be for Lieutenant Casey, because I do not have a particular amount of experience with Lieutenant Casey outside of high-stress circumstances. However, if she sends a Viper, I would not wish him to be unarmed.
Exactly. Ensign Strange, I am less concerned about, provided he is adequately prepared for what he is going into.
I will prepare him. My instincts still say that whilst he will be tested, he is more than a match for an engineer likely the caliber to have been assigned to a Galor class of this relative insignificance. And also, engineers are still universally engineers.
Yes.
Soon enough, they will have a puzzle, and they will be too delighted with themselves and the situation.
We can but hope. And despite my concerns, both Ensign Strange and Lieutenant Casey have passed the lieutenancy exam and have proven themselves cool under pressure, despite unfortunate instances since then. I have no reason to believe that either of them will be incapable of the task before them.
No, quite. I feel I should at the least express some possibly misplaced apology. I do not feel that Gulnido was exactly as polite or courteous as I think was truly appropriate for the ranking military representative of Cardassia.
She did not represent herself or her crew well in that engagement.
And for that I am sorry.
You are not aboard this vessel to make apologies for your people, Mr.
I
Elrod.
am not. However, it is worth stating that her behaviour was inappropriate.
And whilst it shall be noted in my record, I assure you it will not reflect on the Cardassian people as a whole.
Good. I expect if all of operations aboard the Iskandar need to be as hands-on as it sounds that they will be, that your captain is going to not only continue, but expand her scheduling intensity in the coming weeks. So I will dedicate myself to liaising, if necessary, with the Tovos and supporting in that and assisting Lieutenant Casey. I will let you see to scheduling affairs.
And then I think they just sort of incline their heads and part ways to go do things. And the joy I feel in my heart of her being like, I'm the girl. Oh, Caleb, you're such a card. And Talandra being like, what do you think about this, Mr. Elrod? Makes my heart incredibly happy.
He glances back halfway down the corridor.
Get in there. The shippers go wild. Screen capped. Tweeted.
Yeah, and you said fuck buddy, you uncouth.
You uncouth monster.
Yes.
Yeah, the legions of Elrod Talandra fanfic writers don't need them to be fuck buddies. They just need those little glances, and that is enough fuel for hundreds of thousands of words of fic.
The filth shippers have the wine enbies if they wish for explicit filth. The wine enbies are there for the filth pots. The sad boys are there for the angst shippers, and the.
I mean, to be fair, Elrod and Talandra also get a bit of angst.
That's true, but that's good
there's
Regency angst.
No, there's a difference between the angst and the kind of the gentle longing, shippers. Like the slow burn shippers will write Elrod Talandra. The hurt comfort fic shippers will write Strange and Casey.
Yeah.
I think that longing luck is going to be a good place to dip out for a break.
Oh, dip.
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 We got some stuff we're going to get back to. We'll say it's 22 now. We'll say we'll hit it up again at 10 o'clock, and we'll wrap up this session. I'm in control of the button and the saying goodbye. So
pop.
See you. Pop. And we're back. Welcome back, everybody, to Star Trek Iskandar, The Midst of Chaos. When we last left the crew of the Iskandar, there was discussions of basically a swap-a-rooney of some crew members.
A hostage exchange.
A hostage exchange.
We send them a sad boy, they send us a spy.
They absolutely insisted if we were going to deprive you of one sad boy,
right?
just you take this. It's weird, but it's here and it's yours.
No, it's strange and it's here.
The Cardassian is called weird. It's a joke. but it's played completely straight. No one ever draws attention to it.
No, Strange isn't completely strange. I'll shut up.
So, I think one of the first scenes we get, should we do Strange? Let's do Strange first. Strange. Should we do Strange being told about his departure, or should we just send him on his merry way?
Well, Elrad is going to have a conversation with him before he goes.
Then please,
Okay.
now is your time.
Like, Elrad doesn't have an office, and quarters feel so personal for this.
Engineering?
So, yeah, I guess
Mess
I
hall? Okay, sorry, I'll shut up.
everyone disliked that.
He can almost certainly have been given access to the briefing room. Like,
Possibly, or just ask Reyes to borrow her office. Like, I think Elrad will do that, unaware of. I don't think Reyes is that precious about her office. So I think he can just, say he wants to have. He'll want to discuss the temporary. Not even temporary assignment's too strong a word. Yeah, he'll borrow Reyes's office, and Reyes isn't going to give a shit because this isn't the sort of thing that would annoy her.
Yeah, the office isn't where the engine is, so she doesn't give a shit.
If he asked if he could crawl into a Jeffries tube to brief, him next to the EPS conduits, then Reyes would take umbrage.
Yeah.
So yeah, he will move the chair so he's not sitting behind the desk, but still sit down. Ensign, so there is a request for an assignment for you for the upcoming convoy.
Oh.
With the extensive alterations to ship systems which are necessary, the Tovos is also going to need to conduct such. I'm sure, based on your understanding of Cardassian technology, it has been the conclusion of myself and Lieutenant Reyes that it would be best if they had some assistance in their engine room.
That makes sense, yes.
Your name came up as the best candidate for such an operation.
Okay. Go on. Sorry.
No, the procedure will simply be to render what assistance is necessary. Make sure that they have your hands and expertise for keeping everything running smoothly. It certainly is on paper a fairly straightforward affair.
You see, on paper, that implies that there's...
I have no particular knowledge of anyone on the crew of the Tovos, with the exception of Gull Nido.
Okay.
You will still, however, be going into someone else's engine room with all of the complexities and management that will take.
Mm-hmm.
Cardassian ships are military vessels, or certainly Gallo-class ships are military vessels. They operate under military discipline. It has always been my experience that engineers are still, you are scientists still, even if you are military engineers. There is always a certain amount of camaraderie I have observed, which transcends rank for anyone who's trying to keep the ship in one piece. So I actually think that integration and cooperation across services will be easiest for engineers.
That certainly matches my experience, not on a Cardassian ship, obviously, but on, for instance, a Klingon ship.
Yeah, so I would encourage you to treat, I'm going to make a leap here, I would encourage you to assume you are dealing with someone comparable to one of the strictest of Starfleet's chief engineers. And on the one hand, you must earn their trust and respect so that you will be listened to. But on the other hand, this is for keeping the Tovos safe and for the cargo convoy safe. You must make sure that you are heard when it is necessary.
Understood?
I am not particularly our experiences together have only, frankly, given me confidence in your skill and talent as an engineer. I think it would behoove you to rely on that and trust in those abilities to back up your words. Cardassians may ask you to, frankly, prove it. I do not doubt that you'll be capable of doing that.
Thank you for that vote of confidence.
Well, obviously, I don't think either one of us particularly wishes to reflect upon the shared experience, but as I say, it made your talents quite plain to me. If you have any questions, even once you are over there, get in touch. I will give you what advice and support that I can. Combative behavior among Cardassians is not always a sign of antagonism. Sometimes it is normal to encourage each other to demonstrate our talents.
And something of a way of testing new members of crew?
Sometimes. Do not assume it is direct and sincere hostility. I would expect, in fact, direct and sincere hostility to be subtler than that.
Yes, I imagine it would be.
Very well. You know the systems work. You'll be doing actually, frankly, far better than me.
I assume it's going to be very similar system changes that are happening on the Tovos as well as on the Iskandar.
And of course, our systems on Cardassian ship are somewhat less complex, which has its advantages and disadvantages. But yes, they're expecting you. If you wish to familiarize yourself, I don't know what arrangements will be made there. So if you report to the Tovos, and I'm sure you'll have a chance to assess the situation and gather what you need from the Iskandar before we depart.
Okay, I'll get together what I need then.
Do you have any questions, Ensign?
If it is going to just be a straightforward, render them what assistance that they'll need to keep everything running smoothly, then no.
But
something just feels a little. I'm just a little uneasy, I guess, about what role the two of us is playing here.
I am still ascertaining that, truthfully.
Okay.
I have no reason to truly believe they are anything other than committed to a mission of cooperation. However, they are a ship which is eager to prove itself, and there is a certain strain among my people who believe that proving oneself must be to make everyone think that they are the best in the room. You will probably find egos on the Tovos. It is only my hope that if you find egos, those will evaporate in the face of actual danger as people remember themselves. Because when Cardassians are doing their jobs, we are people of discipline and duty.
Okay, I'll assume that it is just a mission of cooperation.
By all means, let me know if you hear or learn anything. But I would put your best foot forward.
Okay, will do.
Very good, Ensign. Thank you very much.
And Stranger will leave the office and go and get together what stuff he needs, what info he needs before going over to the Tovos.
Wonderful. You are able to gather your little Starfleet briefcase of goodies and then head over. I imagine just we get a wonderful shot of with the back of Strange heading towards the Tovos and like kind of upwards pan just to see the magnitude of the ship to show the audience that
This
he is
engineer
daunted.
is small. This ship is far away.
We get a scene of Strange being basically ignored by a few Cardassians as he initially boards, barring a quick sensor sweep by a handheld device that who then does not interact with you in any way before the every Cardassian soldier, crewman. It's one of the same. Currently in...
They are soldiers.
They are soldiers. In proximity stands to attention, and girl Sonnet Nido strides in, looks you up and down and says, I understand you are the best that Starfleet have to offer us.
I'm certainly the engineer that the Iskandar have assigned to the Tovos.
Is the stammer an affectation or a earnest impediment of yours?
Neither.
A troubling answer, truly. Very well, let's see you to our engines and see what you can do in terms of aiding in these very complicated matters.
And Ginger sort of gesture for Golnido to lead the way. As he has no idea where the engine room is.
No. You go up. It's weird. You'd expect to go down, you go up.
Oh,
yeah, it's crazy.
Don't like that.
You are given the impression throughout your very brief journey through a Gaylor class vessel that this is just unusual. Usually the captain of a vessel will not be escorting someone. It's mostly told by the fact that whenever you come near a Cardassian, they turn to face inwards to the corridor and stand to attention. It is not...
Don't like that.
It is odd. It's not like salute level. It's very kind of, I'm attending at the captain who is passing.
Yeah, just a brief kind of stand to attention.
Yeah. In fact, there are occasions where she'll gesture, the Cardassian will fall in step with her, she'll issue a few orders, and they will depart. So it feels very transactional more than it does anything else. And you soon find yourself in the slightly familiar to you engine room of of this vessel. You have experience with Cardassian technology. Mm-hmm. You can see its applications at work here, and whilst you've never been deep into the engines of this particular class, I think I actually don't know the element of Strange's backstory.
More familiar with Klingons than Cardassians.
Then you are kind of handed over to an engineer who comes over to you as you enter. And goes, my name is Glyn Vell. You'll be working under my assignment.
Ensign Adam Strange.
I don't know the pleasantries. Am I supposed to say this is an honor or a pleasure or a privilege?
I don't think any of those are really
applicable.
Strictly necessary.
Yeah. No, in that case, hands over a Cardassian pad, all lurid turquoise in its font, and says, I have done some of the perfunctory measures. In all honesty, I think that some of the work that they are asking us to undertake is unnecessary, but you have been assigned to us to offer your expertise in this matter, so I will happily have a review with you.
Okay. And Stranger's trying to just frantically flick through the pad and go, what's going on? What bits have they put in? What bits haven't they put in? And just try and just absorb as much information as he can as quickly as possible. So
It's very surface level. They've basically they've taken the big bold top thing of the checklist and gone, well, we'll do that, and then anything that looks like it's compromising any other secondary systems have gone, well, no.
We don't need that.
We're not doing that. In fact, give me an engineering roll on the back of that just to see your full assessment. You'll probably do
Ooh.
extremely well.
Garbage dice.
Ooh.
Not, the hottest of garbage, but it's still
Do
garbage.
not disappoint your Cardassian father.
You're not my
I am
real
your
dad.
lifeline.
I am the only person who believes in you.
That's true. I'll try not to disappoint you. That is only a 2, though.
I will.
Do I want to burn a fate point on this already? I think I do. Yeah, I'm going to burn a fate point.
Succeed
It's
at a
20
cost.
past 10, Emily. What are you saving it for?
Oh, it's funny to make characters fail sometimes. So it's like, do I
True.
want to let him fall on his face or not? But no, he can try not to disappoint his dad.
You don't need to re-roll. You can add the +2 to get.
Yeah, I'm just
the
deciding
degree of
which of my
success.
aspects to. Oh no, I know exactly what aspect it is. It's the I need to prove why I still belong in Starfleet.
Yeah, you do, buddy.
Yeah, he does.
At your initial glance, you look at it from the perspective of a lesser engineer, and you think, yes, this is sufficient. Everything they've put in place will put everything in terms of sensor sensitivity to where it needs to be. And then you have that moment of pang in you, that pride of Starfleet that kind of shakes that thought away of like, no, this is not a thorough enough job. They are reliant entirely on primary systems for
It's
this.
sufficient, but there's no redundancy built into the system. So if any part of this fails, then the whole thing's... Yeah.
Yes. And you can see that's the trend throughout. You do not have oodles of time before your departure. You have enough time to get this shit in gear, but it's pretty obvious that before you arrived, this was probably about as far as they were going to go with this, and they have just zero fail-safe capabilities.
Wow.
The prosthetics don't allow the actor to smack his lips idly, but Glyn Vell is kind of quirked brow looking over your shoulder, awaiting your assessment.
Right. Well, there's certainly... It looks like there's enough in to be starting with, but
okay.
I think that we'll probably have to start with the rest of the work with this area and looking at the navigation sensors, since if those are going to be the most sensitive to the Hecate expanse, and so they'll be the first that will want backups, and then we can work through the rest from there in order of what's most critical.
Do you honestly think those backups are entirely necessary?
Hopefully they wouldn't be necessary, but I would be happier if they were in, because if they do become necessary, you're going to really want them.
What was your name again?
Ensign Strange.
Well, Ensign Strange, lead the way.
Yes. Strange will sort of... He won't quite walk off towards where the most critical part is, because he doesn't know his way around. But it will be kind of sweep off in the general direction of this is where most of the critical stuff is going to be, and you can ask for
Oh no!
specifics when it gets
Here's
there.
what happens.
Oh
He's
no.
heading one way, and there's a moment of hesitation, and what name I give him? Vel is like just behind him, and he cuts in as you've got that moment of slight indecision, and goes, "You're looking for the manifolds?
Yes.
This way," and genuinely leads you in the right direction.
That's good.
He wants to deploy the engineer.
Okay, good. This is good. Progress has been made here. Let's go to those manifolds and get the backup systems in place.
You set to work putting together the backup systems. I imagine
Probably also kind of at the same time as doing that and going through the rest of the list, having gone, okay, this is the worst one. Now let's rank the rest of these from second worst to least worst, so that we've got a kind of a priority task list.
Yeah, you can set to work putting right the wrongs. This is relatively perfunctory, if time-consuming for a Starfleet engineer. The difficulty will not be putting these tasks in place. The difficulty will only come in when you start having to deal out instructions to the Cardassians. For the engineering core, are you deferring to the engineer Val to kind of act as the go-between, or would Strange start to kind of trying to direct people?
Strange isn't going to try and direct people. This is someone else's engine room. Like, he's not going to come in here and start issuing instructions until he's got to the point where he's kind of basically, he needs to earn Val's trust enough to the point where he can then issue instructions. But we're nowhere near that point. We're really just at the point where he's being allowed to touch things.
You will, as this goes on, as Val is kind of steering engineers here and there to start undertaking the operations, there's no kickback from it. There's no outward grumbling. It isn't like they were trying to just do half a job. They seem equally committed to do a thorough job. They just stopped at a point. So it looks like this was an assessment that was made rather than any kind of uproar. But that's to be expected from a fairly military ship. That is indeed the other thing. There is no degree of sentimentality to the Tovor. It's not like the Iskandar, where you might drop in a female pronoun here and there, or you speak fondly of the ship as if she served you well. They, in fact, will quite often simply refer to it as the vessel. This is unusual in a cultural perspective, but it's just something that might come at odds. There might be an occasion where Strange is maybe anticipating a bit more of that kind of pastoral care from an engineer to their vessel.
Yeah, that kind of bond that an engineer tends to form to their ship. And I imagine something that probably kind of is one of the things that does trip it up or bring this up is when Strange refers to the ship in slightly more refers to the Tobos in slightly more familiar tones, rather than saying the vessel or something like that. That it'll be something along the lines of, go and see to this because she's going to need that next. And there's probably just that kind of half a second of what?
Kind of looks and is like, she?
The ship's sensors are going to be what needs addressing next.
Oh, I see. You're personifying the ship.
I suppose I am a little, yes.
No, no criticism from me. I find that unusual, but whatever helps keep your head in the game, I suppose.
It's a habit I've noticed quite a lot of engineers end up in, not just humans either, but quite a lot of Federation cultures.
Interesting.
And non-Federation cultures, actually, come to think of it. Klingons get very attached to their ships.
Oh. What a remarkable emotive feat for such a creature.
Just doesn't say anything to that. In response to that, he's just gonna. You know what? No, I'm not gonna.
Like, he seems like genuinely like, huh,
Didn't know they could do that.
Klingons like ships, huh? Like, he seems genuinely like that, like slight amusement of, I learned something new. But yeah,
Strange suddenly has a moment of going, oh yeah, the war.
I mean, previously I was like-
Cardassians and Klingons hate each other.
Previously, I was like, oh, this is the asshole ship of asshole Cardassians. That was standard level Cardassian.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like this is an asshole Cardassian level. This is just Cardassians,
I was thinking,
and
just
so it
like
has that kind
Klingons
of
do
there's
this.
that slight
Oh.
moment of, oh yeah, Cardassians. Cardassian's gonna Cardassian. Well,
meanwhile, on the in the Iskandar, I imagine we have the arrival of your brand new Cardassian. Who is going to intercept that? I imagine Casey's there.
I think the scene probably begins with Talandra and Casey being there. Elrod is completely welcome to be, but Talandra is more likely to be stood there explaining to Casey the situation. I'm not going to go back over it, but what basically she has been saying is that she isn't confident that the Cardassian is being assigned to the ship purely for technical reasons, but that it is some sort of posturing by the girl. Like, she's not going to go through and badmouth the girl. She's just going to like try and make. She's giving a lieutenant's level briefing rather than a captain's level briefing of just like. Therefore, Lieutenant, I believe. Be cautious, but put our best foot forward. But do not be overly hurt or affected should this officer needle or attempt to get under your skin.
I understand.
Elrod will want to be there. Sorry.
Yeah, no, please.
I was going to say, Elrod will want to be there, but he's kind of making clear he just wants to observe at this stage.
I imagine. I don't know if there is an airlock type affair on the
Makes sense.
Intrepid. Yeah. It's not going to be like the hangar bay, is it? Maybe
In
it
fact,
is.
technically it does. No, it can actually dock because we see it dock at Deep Space Nine in the first episode of Voyager. It connects to one of the pylons.
Oh, nice. So yeah, there's the blip on your comms to indicate that someone is about to board the ship. The airlock doors open and a short Cardassian steps through. It is immediately apparent, even if you're not of Cardassian persuasion, that this is extremely young, like still of service age, but young Cardassian. She looks up at. In fact, her eyes immediately go to Talandra. You see the flick of her eye to the rank pips, and she says, "Legate Halmid, at your service."
Wait, how young is she?
Pretty much immediate service age.
And she's a legate.
Is Legate up or down from God?
Up!
Up.
Oh, then
Legate's like the
Glyn.
highest
Glyn.
military.
Like, it's like Admiral.
Glyn.
We don't
Glyn.
like.
This is our child, Admiral.
Did you see my face of just like.
Legates.
Oh,
How much nepotism is happening on
God. I wish I had the balls to go through with that and be like, yeah, no, it's a Legate. It's a child Legate. She's 15 and ready to rule.
Unhelpfully, canon hasn't really given us any ranks other than Glyn, Gull, and Legate. So I don't know what like the lowest officer rank is gonna be.
We'll just go with that.
Yeah.
She's like 15, 16 service age, but clearly brand new to her career.
Welcome aboard, Glyn. I understand your. Sorry, I completely missed her name.
Yeah, what the fuck is her
Only
name?
because you said Legate and my mind turned off.
Legate. It's weird. No, it's Halmid.
Halmed. Welcome aboard, Glenn Halmed. I understand your expertise is in astrometrics.
Yes.
So you have been assigned to Lieutenant Casey, our Chief Science Officer, who will be leading you from this point. I am Lieutenant Commander Talandra. I am the Chief's... What does she say? I'm the Chief's first officer, so should you have anything you wish to bring to my attention, you are welcome to communicate with me at any point.
Of course.
And this is Mr. Elrad, our liaison on Cardassian affairs, should you have something specifically to bring to his attention.
Mr. Elrad, it is a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I've heard much of your command.
Glenn, it's very good to meet you, and I look forward to seeing you make the most, I hope, of the opportunity to see what Iskandar can do.
It's certainly a new opportunity. I will try not to squander it.
Good.
And was it Ensign? Lieutenant. Lieutenant Casey. Excellent. Then
Admiral.
Admiral, fuck you. The children admirals of Starfleet. Then I will happily be at your disposal. Okay, very good. Right this way. And they traipse off.
I am going to, for the moment, assume that Gul Nido has indeed sent a young prospect of an officer to gain experience of a new horizon, and that we have not just been sent a viper swaddled in child's clothing.
If we have it, it's a very well disguised viper.
Quite. At the very least, I'm confident that if she is not an astrometrics officer, Lieutenant Casey will get the measure of her soon enough.
My concern is that if she is potentially dangerous, he may well be disarmed by her youth and naivety.
Understand at the very least, whilst I do not have complete run of the ship, already I think that if concerns are espionage, that ship has rather sailed for Cardassians and the Federation.
I'm not confident what my concern is, Mr. Elrad, which I believe is part of what concerns me.
It is always entirely possible that Gul Nido is simply so desperate to prove herself she must put down everyone else around her. And it may be nothing more complicated than the fragile ego of a new commanding officer.
Perhaps. But you will forgive me, Mr. Elrad, I have seen the hurt that misplaced Cardassian ego can cause.
I'm altogether familiar with it, but for the moment, we have a lot to concern ourselves with, and Lieutenant Casey is, I'm sure, an able pair of eyes.
Sorry, the crew are shouting.
No.
I'll be sure to check in on him when I'm able.
Of course. I will make myself available to the Glyn as well if she wishes. Company, be around her own kind, tips on, I'd say tips on acclimatizing with Starfleet insofar as I have any to give after a matter of weeks. But
yes, I think that's probably a good idea. I shall report to the captain.
Very good, Commander.
Mr. Elrad?
Relief.
These two are getting it done today.
Yeah.
Athan's just sat in already with her feet up.
Yeah, it's good. Athan's delegated like a boss.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
this is what she'd expect, I suppose.
Yeah.
So the final preparations are made. You will hear word, and I'm happy for this to be roleplayed if you wish, but the confirmation from Strange will come through that for the time being, the Tovos's crew are being cooperative. And soon it will come to be that it will be time to depart from Starbase 621 and head towards the expanse. This can be done at warp. All vessels here are warp capable, those civilian ships.
I should fucking hope so.
Off we go, trundle, trundle in my space tractor. They could not hit high warp, but they are capable of hitting
Faster than light speed.
Yeah, that's the key thing here.
Yeah, they could go faster.
But not going back to legacy ships here.
Go forward, full impulse.
You will get a final comms from Bertrand and Cal. Was it
Gotta
Cal?
check in with the civvy.
Yeah, CAD.
No, it's Cad.
Tragically, I
Heavy.
think that Athan's been dealing with them the most off screen, so we've been robbed of these scenes of Athan being like, yes, I understand.
Kantos is dealing
Yeah,
with
they're-
that.
Oh my god, yes.
They're my problem.
But, let's get into it. Everything is starting to fire up. You know that the Toval is going through some initial checks, and there they are, both sat side by side on screen in a tiny little bridge, speaking to Kantos, and Cad is saying, "Yeah, we're just about ready. We've been ready for a while, I suppose. We've been making these checks for months. I'm really impressed. You guys did that so quickly."
Well, a lot of pair of hands make it easy for us to get the preparations in place.
Yeah, what's the deal with the prisoner exchange? She gets a nudge from Bertrand, who's like,
The
I apologize.
officers have been exchanged between the Tovos and the Iskandar from the Iskandar render assistance to the Tovos, and from the Tovos as a show of friendship and cooperation.
Bertrand says, I fully understand that, and that was very clear. And then Cad leans in and goes, blink twice if it's a prisoner exchange. Bertrand
Kantos just stares at them, refusing to blink
she
at all.
like taps her brain. She's onto it. Bertrand says, and at this point, Athan enters the bridge, and you see them both kind of switch to a slightly more formal view. Bertrand's eyes lock onto Athan and says, "Captain, we are ready for launch when you are."
Very well. All ships. Lieutenant Kowalski, confirm all ships are ready to depart.
Confirmed, Captain.
Very well. Then, Helm, get us underway. Ops, give them the instructions to follow in our wake. We have a heading. Let's go.
Aye, Captain. And Kantos will put in the heading and take the Iskandar off.
From there, all ships, the 6 civilian ships, the Iskandar and the Tovas, will hit warp in convoy. At this point, with the view screens showing only the blurred streaks of light that are the stars, you lose all visual sight of ships, which, to be honest, should be the case in space. There's plenty of room. You don't need to be so close to other vessels. And so it just becomes a matter of relying on sensor arrays to know where in this convoy your ships are in relation to everyone else. The journey towards into the Panulan system is quite fraught. Everyone on the bridge that oversees mechanisms of the ship, and indeed the same is true of Adam Strange, the degree of hypersensitivity means that what would typically be automated, as has been inferred earlier, cannot be left without direct and manual oversight. This is an immediate pressure on all crews involved. Even this empty and risk-free passage of simple devoid of life and entity space, officers in all stations on the Iskandar and on the Tovos find themselves coming off duty with feelings of frustration, or in Talandra's case, whatever the Vulcan equivalent of that may be.
Barn is
And
delighted, having been putting her crew through the fucking, meat grinder for the last few weeks. Now that actually serves a fucking purpose. Maybe they can pull their socks off and they won't, fuck the Prime Directive.
No buffer time for us.
No buffer time for you.
No buffer time. In fact, in break rooms, it is often said that this is like being in the academy again, just from the fact that any time anyone's attention lapses, they need to then compensate on the work that they need to do. There is, however, some reward, although it is quite daunting in its own right. Once you are in the Panulin system and you are capable of getting sensor readings and effective out of warp viewport scans of the expanse, the images that come through are quite something. Is a rich orange cloud that hangs in the void, unfathomably large and eerily still. The stars within it do not shine that peaceful white, but they appear like red hanging lanterns, flaring and guttering as their light is interrupted by the ambient and perpetual electromagnetic storms that make up this expanse. What's worse is the knowledge that even as you're looking at it, you can count 100 stars or so, and in fact that this expanse is home to billions. It only takes the most rudimentary application of astrometrics to know that the majority of stars are being actively blocked out by this surging, sanguine storm. There is, even as static as it seems, a sense of roiling, even though, as I say, at this macro level, it seems quite still. And as is the nature of such vast bodies of the cosmos, as the Iskandar approaches, the visuals you can get on it are bigger and bigger and bigger. Were you to drop out of warp, you know that this would consume the entirety of the viewport's vision. You may be admiring this fearsome majesty on the viewport of the bridge when Lieutenant Kowalski goes, "Ooh," and spins around in his chair to face Athan. "We're being hailed by the Tovos, Captain."
On screen.
Gul Sonnet Nido dominates the viewport. "Captain, we are about to enter the storm. Are you quite ready?"
Always up for a challenge here. How about yourself, Gull?
It is in many ways quite poetic. We stand arms spread on the precipice of chaos with its hateful waiting maws. I am intrigued as to see what will happen next.
It has secrets, but I don't think that just because it's going to guard them, it is automatically malicious. Let's see what we can unlock rather than defeat.
Then unlock we shall. Good luck, Captain.
And to you, Gull.
And the viewport goes blank as the comms close. I'm going to quickly drop the name of the Cardassian literature that she was quoting into the crew chat if anyone wants to make that observation and feels like they have sufficient knowledge of Cardassian literature.
Do you know who might have a knowledge of Cardassian literature?
I feel distinctly
Why would
called
any
out
of
by
us?
this event. Hey, Talandra's face will definitely crinkle somewhat, as if she is thinking, and then will look towards the captain. I do not know whether to...
Exo?
It is potentially just an attempt on behalf of the girl to appear threatening, Captain.
Ah,
She was quoting Cardassian literature at you, perhaps expecting you to understand the reference, perhaps not. But it was a reference to Shokal's The Awakening and the Slaughter, a very popular Cardassian text about the consequences of tragic betrayal on a fundamental level between brothers. It is certainly an unusual choice for her to make reference to that text at a moment of intergalactic diplomacy.
I think we can all be confident that Galnido has a taste for the melodrama. Athan does smile, but like Talandra might notice that this is a bit of a front. Like she is not actually as dismissive of the warning as she is perhaps projecting to, the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's Nido.
Oh, that crazy Nido.
Or Candace's expression is just the purest expression of, oh, well, yeah.
And the last thing we
and then
see...
they'll check in with...
Oh, no, please.
Candace wants to check in with their convoy buddies, since we're about to go into the electromagnetic storm of the Expanse.
You get CAD on screen. Okay. This is where it gets scary. Yeah, we're great. We're absolutely great. This is terrifying. This is going to get really bad really quickly.
Might get a little bumpy, but I'm sure it's nothing that any of us can't handle.
I'm given zero confidence by your statement, but I assure you that's not because that wasn't inspiring. And there's like a rumble that rocks through their ship and yours, and she looks up and goes, oh, this is where it choppy, and you enter the Expanse proper. Ladies, gentlemen, and MBs, that was Star Trek Iskandar.
Wah, wah, wah. It was good.
What was
It
that?
was good. We had tensions and politics and drama and people, and like fuck the scientific fascinations of the Hackett Expanse. We can just bicker with Cardassians all day.
Yeah.
We hate her.
We hate her.
We hate her.
I think that
hate
she's
her.
just
Yes,
melodramatic.
hate her.
I think she's just you hating her isn't a problem. It doesn't have to be a problem, Kantos. Hate fucking is allowed.
It's not against regulations.
No.
In many ways, it's actively encouraged.
Well, it might make her chill out. Sticking my money still to she's just insecure and melodramatic as fuck. Like
That's like, if I had to choose who was the dodgy Cardassian out of the several Cardassians we've been presented with, it's Cad. It's not Nido. Nido's just melodramatic. It's not Vol.
I'm putting my money
Vol's
on the
just being an
secret
engineer.
child. I'm putting my money on the secret child Leggett.
secret child leg.
Forgot about the secret child Leggett's. That's a good point.
It's a toddler dressed in a Leggett's uniform.
It's two toddlers in a Leggett's uniform. Wait, we haven't been given more Cardassian. We've been given two Cardassians in a trench coat, pretending to be an adult and trying to sneak into like the 15 and over film. That's what we've actually got. But instead of trying to sneak into 15 over a film, they snuck into the army.
As I said, this is an adaptation of Convoy SE-119 by Jim Johnson. If you pick up that PDF, freely available, but if you're a player of this game, I beg you not to, you'll see that the associated ship on the convoy was actually a Klingon ship. And I was like, that's nice. We've just done Klingons, though. You know what we've not done? So yeah, it's Cardassian ship. I thought that would be more interesting.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's been
good.
fun to. It's been fun to play. Get doing some LRAD as the go between. That's
Is it weird that I love the establishment of the Talandra Elrod relationship through them both being incredibly competent at their jobs, and I'm just like, hot.
yes. This is what we're here for.
Get some fake written. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right, old thick.
Right. The
Based
very
on a
chaste
single
fit.
glance.
That's how it do.
That's how the fandom do.
I'm done for the night. Do you wanna sign us out, Izzy?
Yep. So everyone, hello. It's Sai, Izzy. We have been the EU crew playing Star Trek Iskandar. Thank you, Mike, for GMing this phenomenal Cardassian bitch fest. And of course, you can catch us next Tuesday for the second episode of In the Midst of the Chaos. It's pretty bad. Don't do it. As GM'd by Mike, as played by me, Izzy, and of course Emily and Kath. And much love to you all. Make sure to don't do the thing unless you really want to do it. It's our advice.
Or do it. We can't stop you.
I'll do it. Fuck you.
Do it.
Bye.
Bye.